holidays, we are very pleased to welcome you back to our weekly press briefings. It's Wednesday, the 11th of September 2013, and we are also welcoming our viewers on PBCJ as we bring to you this briefing live. We have, as always, our Minister of Information, and the first segment of our presentation this morning, she will highlight some of the decisions coming out of Cabinet. And then we're very pleased to welcome to our briefing this morning the Minister of Transport, Works and Housing, the Honorable Omar Davies. At the head table here, you also have, beside Minister Davies, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, and on my immediate left is the Advisor to the Prime Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Dr. Carlton Davis. We have some other dignitaries here with us this morning, and they will be introduced to you later. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to Minister Faulkner for the highlights from the Cabinet decisions.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our viewers on PBCJ and to those on the World Wide Web. Cabinet has approved an amendment to the Maritime Drug Trafficking Suppression Act. This will allow Jamaica to waive jurisdiction over Jamaican nationals apprehended seaward of Jamaica's territorial waters on Jamaican registered vessels or other vessels containing contraband. With the country located in the corridor between the main drug-producing and drug-consuming countries, collaboration with our international partners to prevent traffickers transiting the country's waters is an absolute necessity. The law enacted in 1998 allows the Minister to waive Jamaica's rights to exercise jurisdiction over vessels but not over Jamaican nationals. The amendment will grant the Minister power to waive Jamaica's rights to exercise jurisdiction over Jamaican nationals apprehended by a U.S. Coast Guard outside of Jamaica's territorial sea. It has been difficult to successfully prosecute cases when Jamaica has asserted jurisdiction over nationals. This is because Jamaican law enforcers are provided with only samples of contraband by the U.S. Coast Guard, and there is a requirement in law that all contraband found has to be tendered into evidence. It is also unlikely that U.S. law enforcement officers involved in the apprehension will be able to attend court to give evidence because of the slow pace of our justice system, as well as other demands to which they give priority. And drafting instructions have been issued to the Chief Parliamentary Council. Cabinet has given approval for the enactment of the Microcredit Act for the licensing and regulation of privately owned money lending institutions that are not currently regulated by a supervisory authority. The regulations framework will create mechanisms to protect users of these institutions and ensure that they are not used to facilitate money laundering and other illicit activities. The establishment of a regulatory framework for these privately owned money lending institutions will also ensure that legislation for this segment of the industry is relevant and in keeping with changes in the economy. In the last 10 years, there has been significant growth in privately owned money lending institutions operating in the economy, and drafting instructions have also been issued to the Chief Parliamentary Council. Cabinet has approved the award of contracts for the procurement of motor vehicles for the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The contracts are valued at $300 million. A contract valued at $135 million, $93,560 to Toyota Jamaica Limited for the supply of Toyota Corolla motor cars, and a contract for just over $17 million for 6 Toyota RAV4 motor vehicles. A contract valued at $6,512,000 for the supply of Toyota Hiace buses, and the contracts to Vehicles and Supply Limited were $30 million for 10 Isuzu D-Max pickup, and a contract to Stewart's Auto Sales Limited for $92 million, just over $92 million for 32 Mitsubishi L200 pickups, and a contract to Kingston Industrial Garage Limited for just over $17 million for 13 Yamaha motorcycles. And we had to do that because the current fleet is inadequate to meet the needs of the JCF at this time, when its responsiveness and presence are essential in the fight against crime. Cabinet has approved the sale of land by Falmouth Trelawney to persons who are occupying the lands. The property, which is owned by the Trelawney Parish Council, is subdivided and all 10 lots will be sold for $12,320,000. Given the length of time that persons have occupied the lots, some for as long as 20 years, Cabinet also agreed to waive the requirement for the sale of the lots to be advertised. Many of the persons are within the threshold of low-income earners and retired individuals, and valuation was carried out by the National Land Agency. And Cabinet has approved the overseas travel by the Minister of Health to attend the International Conference on Public Health Priorities in the 21st Century, focusing on tobacco. The conference takes place in New Delhi, India, and the Minister is on his way there. The conference will look at actions to promote public health by reducing current tobacco use prevalence and set global standards to protect from the harms of tobacco smoke. And the Public Health Foundation of India is covering the cost of the Minister's airfare and accommodation. And the Minister of Finance and Planning will attend a forum titled Building Growth into Caribbean Sustainability Agenda, and that is taking place in the Bahamas between September 18 and 21. And the forum is being hosted by the International Monetary Fund in collaboration with the Caribbean Development Bank, the IDB, and the World Bank. And it follows a similar forum that was held in Trinidad last year. The goal of this year's conference is to ensure that growth issues in the Caribbean are addressed simultaneously with fiscal and debt sustainability issues. The Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Brian Winter, and Ms. Helen McIntosh, who is technical advisor to the Minister, will also attend. And the cost of that travel is $605,000. Yesterday, the Most Honorable Prime Minister reported to Parliament on her recent trip to China. And we have this morning with us Special Advisor to the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Carlton Davis, who was in China with the Prime Minister, and he can clarify the issues and he can also answer any questions that you might have. And we also have with us, sitting to my left, the Most Honorable Minister of Transport, the Honorable Minister of Transport, Works and Housing, Dr. the Honorable Omar Davies, and he updated Parliament yesterday and addressed some of the concerns within the country over news that Goat Island and the Portland Bight is being considered for a major development by Chinese investors. And I will turn over to Dr. Davies. You see, I have Davis and Davies. There's Dr. Davies, and he will say a few words.
Thank you very much, Minister, for good morning to everyone. And, well, my permanent secretary was introduced, but in the audience are the Honorable Noel Hilton, the CEO, Chairman of the Port Authority, and his successor, who is already on the job but will assume full office on the 1st of November. So I want to especially welcome them. As you have noted from my presentation in Parliament, what I sought to do is to put in context the issue of the proposal which we expect to be forthcoming from the firm China Harbor Engineering Company, in which for the development of a transshipment port as well as an economic zone. So I used yesterday's intervention to put into context the history of the proposal, the signing of an MOU by the previous administration, the continuation of the work on through the MOU by this administration, the request from China Harbor for an addendum to the MOU once two things happened. They had carried out their analysis of the feasibility of Fort Augusta, but also the plans of China Harbor and its parent company, China Communications Construction Company, CCCC, their plans for Latin America. having changed radically, having been expanded, they came to the conclusion that Fort Augusta would not be suitable for the combined investment of a transshipment port as well as an economic zone. And so the addendum, which was announced twice in Parliament, first by the Prime Minister in her contribution to the budget debate, and also by me in my contribution to the sectoral debate, that addendum allowed them to explore alternatives. So I gave the full background. They have signaled their preferred location. Nothing has been signed. But in addition, yesterday, I took the opportunity to indicate that the Port Authority has commissioned an initial study which will provide basic facts about the location, the proposed location, as well as to raise issues of concern, not only with regard to the maintenance of the environment, but also socioeconomic questions. That desk study, the results it would be available shortly and would provide us with the framework for the development, for execution of an environmental impact assessment. Nothing has been signed between China Harbor and the Port Authority or the government of Jamaica apart from the MOU. There will be a thorough study carried out, both the preliminary as well as the environmental impact assessment. I further stress that anything which will be done will go through all the regulatory processes with NEPA or whatever. There has been a great deal of publicity bordering on hysteria by people making assumptions, people making assertions which about commitments made, etc. I just wish to place the facts on the table, and that was the objective of my statement yesterday. I also indicated that the plans whereby a concessionaire would be selected to manage and operate the Kingston Container Terminal, that work is continuing apace. 3 firms have been shortlisted, and they will be presented with requests for proposal for them to make an offer to us. We also pointed out that the geotechnical work in terms of which is necessary prior to the commencement of dredging, that work is underway, and our projection is that the completion of that work will allow us to begin actual dredging in the first half of 2014. Actually, I didn't plan to. This is longer than the statement I made, but I am now open to questions.
All right, we're going to open the floor for questions, but before I do so, I want to introduce 2 members from the JCF Research Planning Division, Deputy Superintendent Oral Pasco and Sergeant Oret Basco, and they're here. And yesterday, the Minister of National Security spoke about strategies to deal with crime, and they can answer any questions you may have. So we will open the floor for questions. Janella Precious.
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Janella.
TVJ. Minister, can you give us an idea as to when this study will happen, or when, has it started, the study that you speak of? And also, would you say that we're on track for the logistics hub project, Goat Island aside? Are we on track? Because I know that the investment minister had, well, he was hoping that in 3 years or 2 to 3 years that we will see progress. Are we on track?
Okay, as regards the first question, the study is underway. The firm has been commissioned by the PAJ. Right, Noah? The study is underway, and I think there's a 6 weeks? When will we have the oh, before that? Oh, things are running. Let me be safe. A cautious politician, let me be on the safe side and say by the end of September we'll have that desktop study or some fancy name, but that will be available because it's utilizing existing data sets, etc.
Minister, can you tell me which firm is conducting
Yes,
the study?
it is Conrad Douglas and Associates. That firm has done several pieces of research and commission work in that very area. So they have within their files a great deal of data which will be relevant to our discussion. I think I know some of the firms they have worked for which have located facilities, etc. Or they have carried out studies prior to other activities in that area. Because I want to make it clear that I don't think it's known that in that protected area there are several existing facilities. I think the Old Harbor power station, there are other industrial activities. The bauxite pier are already there. So this is not a totally revolutionary proposal. All right, in terms of your second question was about? And I think, let me, I sought yesterday to put forward, I'm a simple guy and I just try to understand things in a simple way. Hope you aren't offended by my simplicity. But there has been some level of misunderstanding of what is meant. The logistics hub is not one specific location and said, this is Jamaica's logistics hub. The logistics hub is a concept whereby we will try to maximize the benefits of Jamaica's unique geographical location. We are close to North America, we serve the Caribbean, we are close to the Panama Canal. And what Minister Hilton has been stating overly is that there will be an attempt to maximize the benefits through the attracting investment in a whole range of areas utilizing that location. And so the Caymanas investment, or the attempts to attract investments into what they call the Cayman economic zone, Caymanas economic zone, that's one. But there are also the development and expansion of the Kingston container terminal represents that. It is a maximization of our position, our geographical position. And this would also be another example. Now, depending on a final decision, receipt of a formal proposal and a final decision, this would perhaps be the most significant initiative, because you'd have both a transshipment port as well as an economic zone. So in that regard, I can speak explicitly to that proposal, but there are other other proposals which will be forthcoming. So we are within Minister Hilton's 3-year timeline. But I hope you take the separation in my simplistic way of the notion of a logistics hub as opposed to the concept of Jamaica serving that role as, because of its geographic position as a logistics hub.
Good morning. Advocate Henley, Nationwide News. Question to Dr. Davies. You told us yesterday in Parliament that the PAJ, and speaking of the public body variety.
The what?
The public body variety. The PAJ, Port Authority of Jamaica.
What is it? Oh, yeah. I just want to tell you, Mr. Fitzhenley, that I joined the PAJ before you were born. Not the Port Authority, the Press Association. Oh, you weren't aware of that? I was so the only awards I put up on the wall are my 5 awards from the Port Authority. From the Press Association.
Yes.
Yes.
In the process of commissioning a study regarding the feasibility of Goat Island. I just wondered, are there any other areas that the Port Authority are at this moment considering?
No, it is not a feasible. No, I didn't tell, and I didn't say that. I mean, I understand the value of paraphrasing, but what I said that they have been commissioned to look at the whole area in terms, but not of the feasibility of water. It's a scoping study. We're looking at a range of things.
Okay.
And beyond that, Mr. Fitzhenley, I actually specified elements of the. If I don't have my thing with me, but I actually specified what the study will carry out.
Well, you said to us this morning that the PAG would be commissioning an initial study.
No, I said the PAG has commissioned. I'm very careful with my words.
Absolutely. The Honorable Minister of Environment, Robert Pickersgill, was quoted as saying to the Chinese essentially that Goat Island is under serious consideration with respect to the port. With consideration for what that initial study you spoke of, would you agree there's a disparity between what Minister Pickersgill is reported to have said and what you are now telling us?
Mr. Fitzhenley, I tell you I'm a simple man. Get your questions shorter. I don't know where you started and where you ended, but I gather you're trying to head for some contradiction between what Minister Pickersgill.
Okay, so it's not at all a case where the industry minister has been kind of pushed aside and you are taking a dominant role regarding this matter. You're too old for that little trick question there. I just say, Minister Hilton retains his portfolio responsibilities. He's fully briefed on what's happening with regard, but this happens to be an initiative between the Port Authority. They signed the MOU. It was announced by Minister Faulkner. It's not a secret. The Prime Minister said it in the budget debate. Since I didn't have much to say in the sectorial, I said it again. Thank you.
Garnet Roper.
I'm interested in the fact that you've given assurance about going through the regulatory processes in Jamaica. To what extent are we constrained by Panamax 2015 and by the fact that the Chinese are very anxious to commence? Don't we risk this being dragged out to just simply do study after study? Is there anything that's going to say we're proceeding full speed ahead? The fact that our regulatory processes are legendary for their stalling and protracted period that they take.
Well, I can't proceed with the anticipation that the thing will be dragged out. I like decisions one way or the other. So, because you move on. And we are clear. I believe the Port Authority has already met with NEPA and they know what are NEPA's requirements for any issue to be considered. And one of the reasons for commissioning this desktop study is to prepare ourselves to draft the terms of reference to the EIA and to proceed with the consultations, etc. So, yes, I think that things are legendary, but the tardiness of our process. But at the same time, there are examples. This administration in 2012 came into office, found the proposals for the North-South link, which required the conducting of satisfying NEPA in terms of the two legs from Ferry to Linstead and from Monique to Ocho. We carried out all of the environmental impact assessments. We had the public consultations. We abided by what NEPA did. And we started according to schedule. So with one way or the other, we are going to set about adhering to all the requirements, all the regulatory requirements. We can't proceed with the assumption that this is going to be dragged out. We are proceeding with the assumption that whatever the regulators ask of us, we will do. But at the same time, we are going to ask the regulators to make a decision promptly.
Doreen Luton.
Thank you very kindly. Morning. Just a few questions, Dr. Davies, if you may. The ownership of Goat Islands, can you speak to that? There are, I think, at least some concerns as to whether it's Jamaican territory. Alternatives to Goat Island, if you may also go there. And if I may also pick up on something you raised yesterday,
yes.
Training of Jamaican workers, and specifically PAJ and that new role that has been given to Professor Shirley.
The ownership of Goat Island, the UDC owns Goat Island. So the UDC through the chairman and the MD have been involved in preliminary briefings, etc., whereby they are aware of what the proposal is or will be when fleshed out. So that's a government, that helps. It's another government agency. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm told that the lease, like Vernon Field speaks, they hand it back with the thing that if there were need or something, they would reopen discussions about it. But let me say something, you know. We have an interesting country. I've never seen every day. If the figures came out that unemployment was 17%, we get bombarded. What you're going to do about this? What that? And then suddenly there's this possibility that we can take action, create jobs, etc. And it's a hard country to try to administer. Then suddenly all the questions are, why are you going to do anything? So believe you me, I have a very competent set of persons working on this project, and trust me, we're going to examine all answers. But one of the things I would love is for some proposals, in addition to Mr. Warmington's, some proposal to how we should advance, how we should go forward. But it cannot be that we are such a mindset that the moment there is a proposal to address what we all consider to be the critical issues, that we are just bombarded with the reasons not to do anything.
But if I just follow up on the same ownership point, they say because there are a segment of Jamaicans, I believe, who are waiting to see the investment.
Yes.
Who are anxious.
Okay. And you're speaking on their behalf.
No, I'm asking questions on behalf of and if there is doubt surrounding the ownership, and I just said there was a
okay.
I'm wondering if you have entered into any diplomatic channels, any discussions to ensure that.
Is there an issue? Can we get a...
Yeah, we can get past the mic.
Yeah, is there an issue, Noel? The ownership.
Just to ensure that there are no...
Noel, wait on the mic. We're bringing a mic for you. So that we can...
Yeah.
I spoke to Mr. Knight.
You need to see him.
He gave me a very quick answer. I have title.
Yes. Okay.
So I assume that if you have titles, you're the...
All right. Go on. You should come because I want to make you flesh out. Your question about training. One of the tasks, which it's not that it's totally new, but we are talking about a different scale in terms of training persons at all, particularly at the technical level, for the various activities, the various investments. Honorable Noel Hilton complains, but they have sent me a study of the problems he has faced in terms of training people for to operate the gantry cranes. These monstrosities you see on the pier. But as soon as he has trained them and has them for a couple of years, the Canadians are just hiring them away. So there's, even in a smaller level, there's that existing problem, not just to be able to train that. But the possibility of this investment will require a full range of technical skills as well as administrative skills. And one of the tasks which I'll be asking Professor Shirley to take on is how then can we link all our training institutions towards producing the skills for that, because there's a tendency for us as I tell people in my constituency, every youth, though, there's a minister want a job. I say, what can you do? Him say any little thing. And now I think we have to move beyond that to very specific things. And so one of the critical things, and we have the capability. We have the Caribbean Maritime Institute, which also falls under this ministry. We have UTEC, and I've been trying to press Professor Shirley to make UW more relevant too in that regard. But we have the capabilities to pull together the whatever is required to produce the range of skills needed for our expansion. You wanted to say?
Minister, I think you have addressed it quite well.
Turn to the cameras.
I think
space up here. We have to get a bigger table.
the minister has spoken to the fact that there will be opportunities in respect of the construction period as well as when the operations begin, a range of technical and managerial skills that were required for the port and for the various industries that will be there. Part of our objective is if we are to maximize the number of Jamaicans that are to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, the objective would be to identify the skill sets that would be required as soon as possible, and to put our training institutions in a position to ensure that Jamaicans are appropriately equipped to fill those positions when the opportunities arise. Well, I think as the minister said, the details of the agreement are being finalized or being discussed at the moment. So it would be inappropriate to start training before you actually know exactly what is to be done. But he also pointed out that in respect of the port, our existing port operations at the PAJ, which Mr. Hilton can speak to, at Kingston Container Terminal, there are challenges with the human resources because of the recognition of the quality of those human resources elsewhere, and the fact that many of those persons are being recruited for jobs in other locations. However, the PAJ and the Kingston Container Terminal have already put in place mechanisms to expand the training opportunities for Jamaicans and to address the shortages that had occurred temporarily in the staff at that location.
You want to give somebody a chance and then come back?
Their preliminary assessment of the cluster, and they wish to explore that possibility. The Port possibilities. So they have done their and spend a lot of money in terms of their own what's available. But they have come back to us with this. Now, this is not a critical thing I think seems to I hear discussions on the radio and TV. There's a critical factor which seems to be missing. This is not a government of Jamaica project in that we are saying, here's a stretch of thing, go and build that and we'll finance it. I'm not suggesting that because someone is coming with their own financing they can dictate to you. But we have done what we can do. We have shown them alternatives. They have indicated what their preference is. So it's not that we can say, no, you won't go there and build it. They could say, thank you very much, I'm looking at other places, which they are. So I want to put that in the context. We have shown them, when they came and asked for the addendum, we spoke to them about options. So they have come back to us, having examined these options, and said this is our preference. Now, one way or the other we have to make a decision. We either have to say, you may proceed with the following conditions, or we will say, we won't give permission. So that's the point where we are. So therein Reverend Roper's question is valid. How long do we go through this to come up with A or nay?
Regarding that question, that comment you just made, how long? How long do we have to decide whether Goat Island will be offered for this project?
Well, let's be precise. It's more than Goat Island, because Goat Island only speaks to their preferred location for the transshipment port. They also require significant acreage for the construction of an economic zone. So part of their proposal is the construction of a causeway built on piles to avoid any disruption of the tidal flows. So I just want to be precise, and I don't want anybody down the road saying, you're talking about Goat Island, now you're talking about something else. I'm indicating what their proposal is. And this is related to one of the reasons they rejected Fort Augusta, because they need, linked to the transshipment port, they need significant acreage for the construction of a variety of industrial and activities. I don't want to put clear timelines on it at this stage. Let us have the desktop study, and depending on the range of questions which are posed, which have to be fully explored, then we also will have, in carrying out the environment impact assessment, we have to have public consultation, and so give us until we have the range of issues raised in this desktop study, and I seek to put timelines on it.
Okay, basically what I'm asking is, have the Chinese basically offered any indication to you that we'd like if you get back to us regarding our preferred location by such and such a time?
No, they haven't, but by the seriousness of the effort, with the amount of time and money they have put in, they want a decision, and as quickly as possible. We have said we'll get your decision, but we have certain processes which we have to carry through.
Okay, as the study regarding Goat Island goes on,
what's that?
As the study regarding Goat Island progresses, can you give us an idea of the stakeholders with whom the PAJ will be consulting?
This is standard practice with IAs or any such. So that's standard practices. We've done it a lot of times, even for the north-south link, the highway. We do it. You talk to people like coming through part of section 1 of the highway is going through Linstead. We have to meet with people, churches, whatever, the persons involved.
So, Minister, just to be clear, so we have the desktop study, as you put it.
I forget the right name, don't quote me on the desktop.
The desk study, as you put it, and after that process is what?
Okay, the desk, what's the proper phrase? No, that's too long. What is this? Yes, after, you understand, it's just my simplicity, you know. After we have that, it's part of, did anybody see, let me put on my glasses and read to you what it will, I don't tear up these people because I use them to print drafts. So this anyhow, it's okay. Here are the things. One, determining the geographic boundaries of the Portland Bight protected area, conducting archival research on the historical use of the area, identifying applicable international and national environmental policies, legislation, regulation, and standards for the area, identifying the biologically sensitive features of the marine and terrestrial environment. Terrestrial, how about celestial? Anyway, determining the location of rare, threatened, and endangered species and their spatial distribution in the Portland Bight and Ridge area and the Goat Islands, identifying the boundaries of fish sanctuaries. So it is this study will speak to those issues, and so will raise questions. But there are questions which we have also, like the socio-economic impact. You know, what you're going to need in terms of possible housing, linkages with the road network, etc.
Minister, I'm not sure if I was clear. Read the response about the lease. Are you saying that there is an arrangement whereby if there is development to take place, the lease will be I don't know what word to use, but essentially, what is the agreement? That it's a 90-year lease.
No, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about the lease on Goat Islands, the supposed lease.
Whose lease?
There are reports that the Goat Islands.
Mr. Hilton announced that, answered that. He said he has spoken to Senator Knight, who says, I have a title. But I read some legal person meandering, which suggested that the Americans, if they went to war again, could, and they felt they could enter into discussions for a renewal. But that is not something which is occupying our minds. I think we have enough substantive issues, I would say. But it would be indeed I'm not venturing into foreign affairs and so on, but it would indeed be a curious position of a foreign government seeing us trying to make a step forward to claim in the year 2013 the location.
Colleagues would allow me to digress anymore. Goat Island, if you start anymore.
Yes, Darren Luton has one. Thank you.
Minister, can you speak to perhaps the feedback you have had from the Chinese since the discussions on Goat Island have started here, and also if you may also say the extent to which you have evaluated whether their proposal for the development of it would be an enterprise zone as part of their project, how that would impact on, for example, the broader project, and specifically the Caymanas enterprise zone that is tied into the logistics of project.
All right. I have had feedback in the sense of my conversation with the regional manager for Czech in Latin America, who is presently in Beijing. So they are aware, but they are not. I've explained to them that this is our system, and we have certain regulatory processes which we have to adhere to, and in the poll process, persons can make comments. So but it's not been anything adverse. I just have to explain to him that these are not things we run roughshod over. From that perspective, I don't think there's a challenge there. As regards part of the challenge we face is that perhaps because for so long very little investment activity has taken place, that we speak about Singapore and so on, there are different species of the human race, but they don't see the possibility of one investment means something else cannot happen. What the Czech is a subsidiary, despite its size. It's a subsidiary of a Fortune 500 company, China Communication and Construction Company. Other subsidiaries, they have shipping lines. They have a company, Noel, which makes 90% of the gantry cranes. There are several companies, and they have identified Latin America as their big growth area for the future. And they need a regional center to service Latin America, including the US. And so, for example, with the growth of port facilities in Latin America, there is going to be need. If you have 90% of the market already, they are seeking to establish a fabrication plant in this facility if we proceed, which would in a sense provide the supply the cranes demanded in this area, in this region. Point is what the society has to understand is don't be constrained by our limited views and our limited views of what investment. They are seeking not to take away and compete with anybody else, but to create new opportunities. And as I said yesterday in Parliament, a major task which we have to take on, and even as I speak, I'm seeing work for Noel post his demitting office. A major task is to find entities which can then benefit from these investments. When you get someone investing 1,500 million US, there must be lots of opportunities for local businesses. So I want you to grow your mind in terms of the possibilities which we are talking about.
We are, one second, just a little housekeeping. We're going to take 3 more questions. Garnet?
I learned about a doctrine some time ago from your brother, Dr. Carlton Davis.
So you're asking me about his doctrine?
No, I'm asking you a question about the doctrine, okay. But I'm attributing as a researcher. The doctrine of executive necessity, in which, for reasons of the existing condition, a government, a cabinet, takes a position, almost to trump everything else. An unemployment rate, you say, of 17%, poverty of close to 20%. If the government can't exercise leadership and direction and say, we are going down this road with an investment in our present climate of US $1.5 billion, with all the spin-off, at what point would the government exercise such an option? At what point would it say, you know what, let the naysayers have their way? In the interest of the country at this time, we are not going to delay. What would make that the appropriate response? It seemed to me, in all the circumstances, that that ought to be the response in this one.
Garnet, there are accepted processes. We have established NEPA. We have, and I say we, not the PNP administration, but the government. We have certain systems. What we have an obligation although in a timely way, to let the system work. But as I indicated yesterday to Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Holness, in the final analysis there's a cabinet. And the cabinet, that decision is not, that's what cabinets do. Our system of government may not be perfect, but it's the only one we have. And so I assure you, and I'm not stepping out of line because the Prime Minister we have discussed this matter. Once we have posed the questions, once we have thoroughly aired them, we will make a decision. But I'm not at this stage saying that a decision can be made now in favor. But we are going to go through the process, and we are going to do it in a thorough way. Persons will have the opportunity to contribute. I worry it's not a lack of us not being decisive, but we would be mirroring the approach of many who speak on behalf of the environment, who feel that they should have a veto power. The cabinet in the final analysis will make that decision.
The discussion between yourself and Reverend Roper, from your vantage point, how real do you think is the possibility that the Chinese investors may say to us regarding the hub, we're not interested if we take too long deliberating? How real do you think that possibility is from your vantage point?
Mr. Fitzhenley, the whole issue of negotiation is that you stay in contact with parties, stay in contact. There's mutual interest. And part of our job is to judge whether they are losing patience, etc. But as I said, we have conveyed to them that we have certain processes we'll go. They are aware of this. I can state as a matter of fact that Mr. Hilton has made them explicitly aware of this, so it's not anything new. What they are concerned about, and we have faced this with their other projects, and I've had to intervene, is that sometimes the bureaucracy, apart from all the various special interest groups who are making their contribution, sometimes the bureaucracy is so slow in responding that even Job would have lost patience. You notice my religious advisor here is very pleased, but even Job would have lost. But so they are aware, but we are moving. The desk study is being carried out now. Both Mr. Hilton and Professor Shirley have a tighter timeline than I have. We'll be moving immediately from that into posing the different questions. And with the support of the majority of the stakeholders, I should be able to put the cabinet in a position to make a definitive decision in short order.
And we take the final question. Any takers? Oh, Janella.
Can I ask about that JUTC bus that, well, not exploded, but that caught on fire last week? The PSO Minister, do you have any information in terms of whether that investigation is complete as to what may have caused the fire, the estimate of damage, etc.?
All right, let me start and then I'll hand over to Reverend Roper, the chairman. I was sent a report, and I wrote back to Reverend Roper, and Mr. Campbell indicated that I was not overwhelmed by the thoroughness of the report. So there are questions in my mind as to whether the workers on the bus were prepared to utilize both the extinguisher or whatever it is. So I have received a preliminary report, but I have further questions.
Yeah, the fire in the bus was not started in the engine or any place that has an electrical device that could have backfired. However, the fire people on this who have done the report say that they have not identified an incendiary device or a fuel. So where was the bus? The fire started under the back seat of the bus, where there is no electrical thing. The fire people have not said that it is arson, and we are awaiting their final verdict on that. The damage, the bus is completely destroyed, which puts the damage at about $30 million.
Was there a fire extinguisher?
None of them worked, and the argument is whether it is a matter of training, which I've asked the management to look at the process and the procedure, and the renewing of the training where the drivers are concerned. And there is a question to be answered as well as to why it is a fire extinguisher that was empty was on board.
Okay, so just to be clear, the driver,
He tried to use the fire
he
extinguisher.
tried to use it, but it did not
He
work.
said it did not work. Police are involved.
Do you have issues with arson in general?
No, this is the second bus that has caught fire in recent times. And the first one was in fact an attempted arson which was put out, but the distance is 18 months, so I wouldn't say we have a general problem, but I would say that the only insurance that the JUTC has is against fire on the compound, because they believe that when people are angry they're likely to throw stuff. I just said that the thing happened last week, and I indicated my own response, which is in advance of the minister's response, which is that I need some kind of indication as to what retraining takes place for emergencies like this, and the process by which we continue to re-examine extinguishing. 18 months ago we had an attempted arson. I've indicated that I've told the management that that's a view that I have, that this is a response that they need to give. I will get a report, and I will respond to the minister's report when I get that report.
So the minister has further questions. Exactly what we're doing.
The minister is right here. But no, the minister, we both concur that the report was at best preliminary. It was done by the internal department. I told him what the response of the fire people were. Yeah, it was a preliminary initial report.
Was the bus insured or is the bus insured?
I answered that already, but let me say it again. JUTC buses carry third-party insurance. There is an insurance for JUTC bus parked on the depot, which is a fire insurance, an insurance against fire. But there is no fire insurance for the JUTC bus on the road. None of the reports, I can't speak specifically to the driver, but none of the reports suggest that there was any negligence on the part of the driver.
And we have come to the end of our briefing. We want to thank everybody for coming. We want to thank our viewers for watching. Dr. Davies, thank you very much, and your team. Dr. Davis, thank you very much. And we also want to thank members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force that joined us today. Have a good day, everyone, and a good rest of the week. Thank you. We're on air. We're on air.
We're on air? So this is with you?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You don't shake hands and all that?
No, we don't need none for this. No, but we can get up. No, we just...